All right, good morning. We're going to be looking at the aircraft forms today. So the first thing I do is I check the cover to make sure that the tail number matches the tail we're flying. So we're going to fly 083934 today, and that matches the tail, so I know that the forms look good there, and we'll continue to check that throughout. As we flip through, I check again here on this cover to make sure that the serial number matches again, so 083934, and so the forms are for the aircraft that we're flying today. The first page we're going to flip to is the 781H. 781H shows the status of the aircraft and when its BPO, which is its basic pre-flight, or its through flights have been accomplished. So I can tell from the top left corner of the page that this page was written on January 8th of this year, and that the BPO PR, so that's a combined post-flight pre-flight, was accomplished also on the 8th at 1800. If the aircraft has not flown, the BPO is good for 72 hours. If the aircraft has flown, it's only good for 24 hours. So if we had any through flights on this page, we'd know that the aircraft was flown, and it would only be good until 1800 on the 9th. If the aircraft had flown, you'd have more type inspections down here, and you'd see a TH, a through flight, an accomplished by, and a time and date. This allows you to know how many times the aircraft has flown for today, and you can match that with down here in the airframe time. There should be entries for each aircraft sortie and the time of flight. In the middle has the status for the aircraft. Today we see that it was on a dash, and the highest status it's on now is a slash. The dash has been corrected and we're at a slash. That matches box number 2, and it's signed off by the pro soup. Going to the back of the page, you'll see that the aircraft has been pre-totaled with Jet A, 117 gallons, and has 1,100 pounds of fuel on board, and no oil has been serviced. Each time the aircraft flies and is serviced, a new entry is made with a corresponding number and is signed off down here by whoever serviced the aircraft. You can see when oil's been added, and you can start to look at those things to see if the aircraft's burning oil. Once we've completed with the H's, we can move on to the 781 Alpha. 781 Alpha shows what open write-ups are on the aircraft. The first page is an info notes page. You'll often see this on the aircraft here, but the aircraft has a front cockpit G meter, 1 G ahead of the rear cockpit G meter, but within limits. That's important to note and remember when you're doing high G maneuvering, especially during extended trail, if you're trying to decide if the aircraft's been over G'd or not, that the front cockpit G meter is 1 ahead of the rear cockpit G meter. Flipping over to the Alphas, you'll see any open write-ups. On the Alphas, you'll see the symbol, which will either be a slash, a dash, or an X. A dash meaning an open inspection or an unknown condition, a slash meaning minor maintenance is due, or an X means a no-fly condition. In this case, our symbols are a red slash throughout, so there's some minor maintenance. And you can see that the minor maintenance has not been accomplished or signed off at this point because there's no corrective action, no corrected by, and no inspected by. So reviewing these forms, the things we're going to take note of are the rear cockpit step panel spring is broken. That's written up twice. That's sometimes a thing that happens when they print the forms, but it's only one write-up. You can tell because the work code's the same. The engine bay distribution panel's circuit breaker is missing a label. That's duplicated as well. And the high pressure line clamp requires replacement, also duplicated. All of these are non-limiting conditions, and the aircraft can fly in this status, denoted by the red slash for each of the conditions. Coming to the last page, I can see that there are red dashes here, which means that there was an inspection that was overdue, but those have been signed off. And I can see that the fuel sample, which is a daily inspection, has been corrected, and the tire pressure check, which also is a daily inspection, has been corrected. The tire pressure check is good for 6 hours if the aircraft has not flown, and it's good for the rest of the day if it has flown. So this was done at 0530 on January 9th, which is today, so I know that that is good for 6 hours. This aircraft has not flown, so I've got 6 hours to have that accomplished. A couple of things on this page to see that are important are I can tell that these are accomplished because the inspected by blocks are signed off, an initial is over the symbol, and that it's been reviewed and the ER is signed off here because there's a red line at the bottom and initial. This indicates to me that there's no further entries, and if I went back to the 781 hotel, the person who signed this off is who signed off that exceptional release block in the 781 hotel. Continuing with the forms, there are no more entries in the alphas, so I can continue past the alphas and move to the J's and K's. The 781J shows my total time, and this is at the beginning of the day. So if I want to know what the current aircraft time is, I have to look at this number and go back to the 781 hotel and add any flights in here. So 3735.5 matches our time, 3735.5, and the aircraft has not flown. If the aircraft had flown a 1.0 today, I'd add an hour to this number. This shows the time on the engine. It's also 3735.5, so I know that this is the original engine for the aircraft. Moving over to the 781 Kilo, I can see that the date it was printed was yesterday, just like the rest of the forms, so January 8th, 2019. And the first thing I do is see what the next major inspection due is. Typically, you'll see this as an HPO, so the type will typically be HPO, the frequency will be 150 hours, it'll show a completed time and a next time. In this case, it's due for a phase inspection for its 600 hours. I can see that that's due at the 3900 hour point, and since I'm only at 3735.5, that's less than that, I have not exceeded phase, and I know the aircraft is good and not overdue on phase inspection. Additionally, in the top right corner, I can see when the engine change is due or engine servicing is due. Again, since it's the original engine, I can see that it's due at 4,500 hours. These are due every 4,500 hours, and that the engine time is 3735.5, so we've got a few hundred hours until that's due. The next thing I'll check is when these individual inspections are due. And so all I'm doing here is the same thing. I'm making sure that my airframe time doesn't exceed these, or doesn't exceed these times into the allowable maintenance overfly, which you'll need to determine with your crew chief and the pro super. And if it is overflown, you'll need a 781 alpha entry, or when we get to it, a 781 Kilo entry. So in this case, the first inspection due is the aircraft wipe down. It's due every 50 hours. The next one is due at 3760.1, and I'm at 3735.5. So again, we haven't exceeded that inspection. Soap samples, the next one due at 3760.5. We're not there yet. The rest are based on dates. So egress is due every 30 days. The next one is due on January 17th. Today's January 9th. I'm not exceeded. IDARS card replacement on January 21st. OBOG's moisture purge on January 23rd. A GPS update on January 30th, and a 28-day RMU fault reset on February 4th. We haven't exceeded any of those times, so things are looking pretty good so far. Flipping to the back of the Ks, I can start to see open write-ups that are delayed. If something's in the A long enough, it will transfer to the Ks and stay here. These are delayed discrepancies that they don't intend to fix quickly. So the first part of the Ks show me slashes, so I know they're minor maintenance due. And so there's an inspection of the forward cockpit wiring harness, and the grounding date for that is November 7th, 2019. So we haven't gotten to November yet, so we haven't exceeded the ground date. And the canopy fracture upgrade needs to be accomplished by August 3rd of 2022. So we've got a few years until that is accomplished. You'll see that these carry forward almost to the grounding date when they get the parts to accomplish. Continuing in the Ks, we see what other open write-ups there are. So you may have a series of dashes or slashes in the Ks. Slashes are the easier ones because remember, they're minor maintenance, and so I can just look and see what minor maintenance needs to be done. In this case, I've got an engine truss mount that has mild corrosion, an engine inlet case that has minor protection coating peeling, an outer combustion case that has minor corrosion, and a pulley that's missing its vibrating preventer. A lot of times you'll see dashes in here. It's important to note on the dashes when the corrective action will be done. So they can't carry a dash forever. Typically, you'll see in here, due at next HPO, due at next phase, due at next major inspection, and those will get accomplished. One important thing to check is when the last inspection was accomplished. So if I move back to my 781K's cover page, I'll see when my last one was completed. In this case, on a phase, it doesn't show completion, but on an HPO, it would. If you have something here that carried over and wasn't accomplished at the HPO or the phase maintenance, the aircraft should upgrade to a red X and is in a non-flyable condition. From there may be some waiver letters, but in this case there aren't. So that's the end of the forms. This aircraft looks like it's good to go and we're ready to go fly in it. For more information on aircraft forms, Tech Order 00-20-1 has all of this information. It's written to the maintainer, not necessarily the pilot, so it takes a good long read, but it's chock full of good information and has all of the information for what I just instructed. Thank you.